What's up guys, Louis here, hope you are doing great. In this video, you will learn the difference between buying a house in cash versus using financing. Many finance experts are saying to always avoid debt. Naturally, that causes us to think that putting as much cash towards a property as possible or buying it outright is our best option. There are so many considerations when deciding between buying a house in cash versus getting a mortgage. In this video, we will break down the pros and the cons of each, and I'll help you to determine the best strategy for you. Before we jump into the video, just make sure to watch until the end because I will be sharing pros and cons for rental properties, meaning this will be more focused on investment properties instead of just buying a house to live in it. I feel I wanted to cater for both investors as well as just normal home owners. So with that said, let's get started. Just because you can buy a home in cash doesn't necessarily mean you should. However, for some it might be the right buying strategy. First, let's dive into the pros of buying a house in cash. Pro number one is there is no interest. When you buy a house cash, you don't have to worry about interest accruing from taking out a mortgage. The cost of interest on a 30-year loan will likely end up costing you tens of thousands of rands, especially if you use the full 30 years to pay off the loan. And with today's high interest rates, a 30-year mortgage loan of R1,000,000 at 10.5% will cost you over 2.2 million rand of just interest. Pro number two is there is no closing cost. Because you are paying in cash, you can avoid paying closing costs associated with mortgage loans. You will pay no mortgage origination fees or other lender fees. Pro number three is it's more attractive to sellers. Private sellers usually prefer cash offers. In some cases, sellers will even accept a lower offer than they would receive from someone that uses a loan. Paying in cash also reduces the risk of a buyer getting denied financing or the loan falling through for any number of reasons. This is often referred to as a cash discount for buyers. So basically, you as the buyer has a lot of leverage when it comes to negotiating a better price from the seller. Pro number four is you can usually close much faster. If you've ever tried getting a mortgage, you know it can be quite the hassle. Getting a mortgage requires you to provide the documents like proof of income, bank statements, credit reports, debt to income ratios, etc. This really helps if you use a good bond originator. With that said, when you pay in cash, you skip the entire mortgage process and can usually expedite the closing process and close the deal much faster. Pro number five is you own the house outright. That feels great to say because your house is not leveraged against a mortgage. If you own the property outright, it becomes much easier to sell regardless of market conditions. Plus, you own the original title deed. Pro number six is your credit score doesn't matter. Credit scores is a big indicator for lenders to consider when accepting or denying a loan. If your credit score isn't as high as it needs to be, paying cash will eliminate any need for a credit check because you aren't taking out a loan. You don't have to prove that you will be able to keep up with your mortgage payments. Then pro number seven, there's no necessary income required. Again, this ties in well with the previous one. When borrowing a certain amount of money, mortgage lenders require you to make a certain amount of income. This is just a way to measure the level of risk associated with you and your ability to make mortgage payments. If you are paying cash, it doesn't matter how much money you make because you won't be paying a mortgage. So with the 7 pros out of the way, let's jump into the 7 cons of buying a house in cash. Con number 1 is you tie up a lot of money in one asset. Putting over R1 million on a single real estate investment can be risky. If you tie up a large amount of money in one asset, your investment portfolio becomes less diversified, thus increasing your risk for losing money. Con number 2 is you decrease your liquidity. Liquidity is very important. Unlike other types of investments like stocks or bonds or real estate, it is an illiquid asset, meaning it's not quick, it's not easy, or it's not free to sell. Pouring most of your money into a house diminishes access to liquid assets. Con number 3 is you give up leverage. Nobody likes to be in debt. However, being leveraged in real estate actually presents an upside to debt, assuming you are able to get a low interest rate. You may be able to make money by having a mortgage due to the effects of inflation. If you paid cash, you give up that leverage completely. Number 4 is you miss out on the tax benefits. In most cases, you can deduct up to a certain amount of mortgage interest on your itemized taxes. This can potentially knock out a huge chunk of money paid on interest and put money back into your pocket. If you're using cash, you miss out on some really great tax benefits, especially if you use a different entity like a trust or a closed corporation. Con number 5 is mortgage rates are a cheap source of financing. As far as types of loans go, mortgages are typically the cheapest source of financing. Mortgage loans comes with low interest rates, especially compared to other types of loans, and basically anyone with a good credit score can get a mortgage loan. Just compare them with personal loans or credit cards, which has huge interest rates. Con number 6 is your return on investment may be less compared to other options. Just because you can buy a house in cash doesn't always mean you should. It's important to determine if your money could be better used for other investments, also known as opportunity cost. Run the numbers on other investment options and decide if putting some of your money elsewhere could yield higher returns than a house, such as stocks, bonds, unit trust, Bitcoin, gold, Dogecoin, or whatever. Con number 7 is you can be house rich and cash poor. This is probably my favorite because buying a house in cash and leaving little money in savings after doing so isn't the best position to be in. What if unexpected expenses or major repairs arise and you don't have the money to pay for them? Draining your savings or emergency funds in order to buy a house in cash is risky and could come back to haunt you. The question of why do rich people still take out mortgage loans usually pops up, and this question is asked all the time. People with a lot of money still take out mortgages for a couple of reasons. They know home loans are cheap and you can yield better returns relative to other investments. As I've covered a lot of these pros and cons in the section above, I'm going to highlight just a few key pros and cons related to buying investment properties with cash versus mortgages. Having said that, real estate investors should rarely go for paying all cash on a property unless you have a huge amount of money just laying around. So 3 pros of buying a rental property with cash is number 1, you have 100% equity in the property. Number 2 is you immediately get cash flow from your rental income. Number 3 is you avoid the whole mortgage process. With that said, 2 cons of buying rental property with cash is that you miss out on all of the tax benefits. You have to pay tax on all your rental income, obviously minus all of your rental expenses, so you'll be missing out on rental property tax reductions. With mortgage financing, you can deduct interest payments from your taxable rental income. Con number 2 is there's less diversification, aka putting your money all in one place. So 3 pros of buying a rental property with a mortgage is that pro number 1 is higher returns on investment potential. I delve into more detail on return on investment in a different video. I'll link it down below. Number 2 is leveraging your investment. And then 2 cons of buying a rental property with mortgage financing. Con number 1 is the risk of foreclosure. You could lose your home by defaulting on a loan. Con number 2 is vacancies. If you rely on your tenants to pay your mortgage and have trouble filling your rentals, you could potentially face paying the mortgage yourself, although this is something that we do need to calculate anyway. So with that all in mind, just do the math. You'll probably make more money investing your money somewhere else than parking it in a house. The value of your property may go up over time, but in order to get your investment back, you must sell your house. Unless you use the refinance strategy that I use. I made an in-depth video about this, so if you want to know how I make money using property, I'll share that link as well. We all know that selling a house is a process and it takes a lot of time. Whereas selling a stock or other liquid assets gives investors quick access to their money. You're usually better served having the mortgage, taking the tax deductions and earning money elsewhere. People often forget how much that tax deduction is worth. So let's get to a conclusion. Now that you have weighted the pros and the cons of buying a house with cash versus mortgage, you should have a solid idea of your next steps. Whether that might be moving forward with a cash offer on a home or looking into your financing options for an investment property. You're on the right track to using and investing your money wisely and hopefully putting yourself in the best financial situation possible. With that said, guys, I really do hope that these pros and cons helped you out in some way. If it did, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below which pro and which con you like the most, and I'll see you guys in the next video.